Psychology in Seattle.
All right, podcast people, deserving people out there. This is the 10th installment of the Dungeons & Dragons therapy session podcast situation in which Adam Davis and Adam Johns of Game to Grow, they demonstrate what it is like to use Dungeons & Dragons in a therapeutic manner. And if you are just tuning into this one and you haven't heard the others, I recommend listening to the other ones. You can go to the website, and there's a page that has all of the Dungeons & Dragons episodes, and this is number 10. So go there, listen to those, and come back. Adam, so if you're interested in using Dungeons & Dragons or Minecraft or Magic the Gathering in a therapeutic way, you can go to gametogrow.org and learn more. You can also we're a small enough business. I'm board president. Adam and Adam are here, and they are the executive directors and the founders. And you can actually even talk to them and get some advice from them, get some resources, or even get training from them. You can hire them. They're great public speakers if you want to fly them out to your conference on therapy or on child or teen therapy or for neurotypical population therapy. You can hire them, and they give a very entertaining talk. As I saw them give a talk once to a room full of family therapists who are mostly women, and they were a little they loved the model, and I could see some of them were giving both of them eyes at times.
They were rolling eyes.
So if you're interested in giving Adam and Adam eyes, then hire him. So using Dungeons & Dragons in a therapeutic manner is a wonderful thing because it's fun, it's useful, it works, and the kids love it, and they can't wait to go to therapy. So we also have a box set that is about to be released called Critical Core. You can find out more about that. You can purchase that by going to criticalcore.org. It's very popular. It sold how many units, Adam?
Last I heard was we have enough units to be stacked as high as the Empire State Building several times.
So
what?
So this is pre-order, sight unseen, our very first product, and we've already sold multiple Empire State Buildings.
Thousands and thousands and thousands.
And
How tall is each unit? One Empire State Building?
Yeah, so we sold 3. Very large kits.
In this box set is the starter kit for using Dungeons & Dragons. If you're a therapist, an educator, you work in a hospital, you just even want to do it with your kids or something. And it lays it all out there. And so if you want to get that, go to criticalcore.org, go to the Kickstarter. I guess they can still sign up there.
You can find that through criticalcore.org, a link to our pre-order store.
Yeah. Oh, pre-order store, not the Kickstarter anymore.
Kickstarter is now a pre-order store.
I got it.
Post-Kickstarter functionality.
And that will be mailed out to people when?
The Kickstarter deadline we put on the Kickstarter is December.
The official story is when it's done and it's a good product for everybody.
So sometime in 2020, it will be mailed out to everybody, is the likelihood. And so there's that. Yeah. So do that. All right. Let's start this thing called the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, a professor, and I play a dwarf by the name of Thrain Oakenshield. He is a priest, but he's sort of a battle priest. Umberto, who are you?
My name is Umberto Castaneda, and I play Grollo the Cruel. And I'm like half-orc, brutish.
My name is Adam Davis. I am playing Shoosh, the Tiefling Bard, and I'm one of the executive directors of Game to Grow.
My name is Adam Johns. I'm the other executive of Game to Grow, and I am the dungeon master and circus wrangler for this group of oddities and rarities. That is the troupe that we have here. before we jump in, before we do our recap, as is tradition, we are going to do a check-in question for everyone to continue to deepen your journey with Dungeons and Dragons and also your relationship with your character and find out a little bit more about your characters. So our check-in question today is requires maybe a little bit of unpacking, but it is, what is a fundamental truth that you believe about the world? So we as people, as living beings, travel through the world and have sort of a conscious idea or an unconscious idea about what we believe to be true about the world. So I'm going to pose that question to you and also to your characters. And in this case, I'm actually going to answer it first to give you kind of a framework and idea for what it is that I'm sort of looking for on this. So my fundamental truth about the world is actually about people. I believe that people are not nefarious. I believe that people can be mean, they can be cruel, but they always do so in maybe a self-interest or an interest because they believe it is the right thing to do, because they believe that it is somehow the best choice put in front of them. And in a lot of ways, that guides a lot of the approach that I have around being a therapist, around being a group facilitator. All of those things are come from that fundamental truth that I believe about the world. And so, how about for you guys? What is a fundamental truth that you believe, and what is one that your character believes about the world?
I'm just going to say ditto, because I didn't know this about you, Adam, but I guess I could have guessed. I believe the same exact thing, and I don't know if I could have worded it better. So I'm just going to say that, yeah, I absolutely believe that when people are taking actions, they're acting to their best knowledge what is a good thing to do and a moral thing to do, and they're trying. And obviously when you're giving to charity, that's something that we can all kind of say, oh, it comes from a good place. But when someone, for example, breaks into your house and takes something, or calls you a name, or fires you because they don't like you or something, it comes from we look at that and we think, wow, that looks like evil behavior. So really, that person, or at least that behavior, was from a place where they are sort of different in some way. But I have found through experience that when you actually dig down on those individuals, you find a totally understandable explanation as to why they took that action, and so yeah, I believe everyone is good, even the terrible people. I believe that about Umberto.
So you guys are just eliminating a word from our vocabulary, basically.
Yeah, nefarious. Yeah, comic book characters can be nefarious,
Okay.
like fictional characters can be nefarious.
I definitely don't agree with that perspective, but that's not the question. The question is, what do I believe? So first I'll say what my character believes. My character, Grollo, believes that the world is unfair for the weak. And
What about the month?
only for the weak.
See, that was an
That
embarrassing.
was an
Yeah.
Umberto kind of joke.
Yeah.
That was very good, very good. So he would say, like, yeah, the world is cruel and stuff, but pretty much you just got to be strong so you can. And then I believe, this is maybe too high level, but I just believe that existence trumps non-existence. Meaning, if all things being equal, at the end of the day, if we're going to make one call that I can make for myself, is that being alive is better than not being alive.
I do think that's significant. I actually think that works in pretty significantly to some of your fears and some of your like life goals that we've talked about on the podcast as well.
Yep. I could see that.
I think you guys stole the first two responses were sort of what I was going to say. I do believe people are fundamentally good. I think if I was going to take this one step farther, I would say there's nothing, a core belief that I think is true about the world is that there is nothing more fundamentally human than loneliness. That we are like sort of isolated and alone, and all we can do is try to use this like flapping of sounds that we do with our mouths to try to communicate with each other, and that is a crucible we have to carry as people who are fundamentally alone, that we have to try our best to be seen and see each other despite the limitations. And I think that is like the most fundamentally human crucible, is that we have to struggle through our limitations to try to connect with each other.
Yeah,
It's kind of depressing, but
that's okay. This is a very like meta.
I think that's a
open-ended
truth.
question.
I think that is like one of my personal things to strive for, is like to see people despite all of the like very biological like things like language that keep us from being able to understand each other. and then help people connect with each other. That's like one of the things that I try to do as a professional is like improve people's capacity to see each other, communicate, and connect.
Cool. And how about for Shush?
That's really hard for Shush too. I think Shush kind of agrees with that. I think Shush really similarly feels like people. You have to kind of push really hard with people before you can see each other and belong with each other. And I think that's also sort of Shush's. Once again, Shush and I have a lot in common. That's sort of Shush's quest is to belong, right? And to like feel like people see him for who he is and not just what he can do. And I think that's part of the struggle for Shush.
That makes a lot of sense. And then Kirk, you answered for yourself, but you didn't answer for Thrain.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to. For Thrain, he believes in his god, and there's strong evidence that the gods exist. And he believes that if he is good and dutiful to his god, then there's some threshold of death or glory that he will cross, and it will give him finally the ability to kick back and smoke a pipe and read a book.
That's sort of like...
And have a family.
Sure. Oh, yeah, right. The whole idea of what it would be like to have a family.
Yeah, but only after much hard work can that happen.
This is sort of a similar thread, just observing to Kirk, your want and desire to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
It sounds like Thrain's want and desire is also to make the world a better place. He does so through the guidance of his god, or sort of a trust in the idea that like following his god's path will get him there.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. As we progress, and this is something we do in our groups too, the questions that we ask for check-in questions continue to be not always harder, not always deeper, not always heavier, but they continue to provide you opportunity to answer ideas about your character and reflect upon who your character is. And part of the reason for that is we've talked a little bit about like the projective technique of who you are versus who your character is, and how you really cannot play a character without bringing in pieces of yourself. And obviously we see some of that as we kind of reflect on your answer versus your character's answer to some of these questions. But it's always super interesting to see when you're put on the spot to answer a difficult question about who your character is, how they view the world, what their experiences are. Then all of a sudden you have to come up with something. You have to put something into that. And oftentimes that is a expression of maybe a little bit of who you are, or what your own experiences are, or how you think your character may have taken those similar experiences or similar ideas and taken them in a different direction. So, awesome. They're
Cool.
great answers.
Yeah.
That being said, should we dive in and play some D&D?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk, do you have a recap for us?
Sure. In a nutshell, do we know that Blancmere is the avatar of Grumpsh, or do I know that? Does Thrain know that?
So you guys were told in questioning the other general, I believe his name was Blood Crusher. The General Blood Crusher, when you were questioning him, he said that Blancmere is no longer Blancmere, that he is some kind of imbued with Grumpsh. I don't know if he used the word avatar, but he is definitely...
He's not Blancmere. He's
beyond
more Grumpsh
human.
than Blancmere.
Yeah. And you guys have gotten a little bit of evidence that would seem to confirm that.
Okay, so 8 years ago, from what I remember, Blancmere was invaded by Grumpsh, who is a very evil god of the orcs, and is using Blancmere to change the landscape of the situation so that he can return to our world of Toril or Faerun or wherever we are in.
I don't think we ever named it.
D&D world.
We get to name it.
Okay. And Grumpsh can kill everybody, including those who actually brought him back. And because Grumpsh is about chaos and evil and wants to just kill and rule and dominate like the Lord of the Rings kind of evil person. And So we have discovered that in this one city, there's a lot of Grumsh worshipers who don't really understand Grumsh, and they're worshiping kind of a super watered down version of Grumsh. And then we found out that that's just a front so that the real Grumshites can sacrifice people as part of a ritual to bring Grumsh back. And we thwarted one of these sacrifices, saved Umberto's girlfriend, Cruddy, and we got some clues which led us out of the city into the marshes to find upper administration, middle management, if you will, of the Grumsh people. And so we went into the marsh, and we were at his dream tree, and listen to that episode if you want. And we want to give a shout out to Alyssa. We posted a picture of it on our
Very
Facebook
cool.
page. A listener, Alyssa, and actually a student of mine, she is dungeon mastering a game, and she used that exact same scenario that Adam laid out, where there's a tree that you fall asleep and trying to pull you into the tree and eat you. And so not only did she run that adventure, but she actually created a what do you call that? Like a table?
I guess like a miniatures map or diorama.
Yeah, a diorama, like a miniatures sort of model, essentially.
Dungeon model, kind
of the tree and the surrounding marsh. And you go to Facebook and see it. It's glorious. Like, it takes up the whole, just for this one adventure, it takes up the whole
It's spectacular.
table.
I love how she did the marshes for sort of the cropping up pillars of land.
Yeah. And she has vines like pulling the characters into the tree and everything. I'm sure it makes it very memorable. And so we got past that, and we ended up getting to the orc army, the generals and the troops. They are mustering outside of Pahiha, the city.
So we got captured.
We got captured, and we were prisoners, and and Justin,
Poor Justin.
Poor Justin.
Ill-fated Justin.
we managed to kill him, and someone wringed his neck with their legs or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shush snapped his neck.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it like Sonya Blade in the Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I
movie.
think that's how he ended.
And then we got out. And we ended up we ended the last adventure with us heading into the marsh, having no idea how to get through the marsh, but we're happy to be free. And now we have a mission. My character Thrain has seen a vision from his god about a hammer that's in the mountains. And I know the direction of the mountain. It's like east or something.
North. But yes.
The mountains in the north is a cave where there's a hammer that is somehow related to Moradin, my god, that I'm being called to. Is there anything else in the vision that I saw beyond that? Wasn't there some other thing, like a terrible thing I saw in the mountain?
You only saw that when you were given the vision, it was because you had asked for guidance, and you were told that there is both weal and woe tied up in that. So you know that, like, whatever you're getting from Moradin or your vision from this, it's not just all good. It's a sort of combination of good and bad.
So my character wants to get to that cave and get that hammer, since we're in the neighborhood-ish. So anyway, but we just got beyond the camp, and so we just got free. That's where we're at.
There we are.
Cool. Well, that being in mind, you guys are now tromping through the marshes. You don't have a whole lot of time to sort of get a lead on the ridiculously sized orc army behind you before they figure out what has happened and start coming after you. So I'm super curious what you're all. What is everybody's hit points are pretty low, right?
2.
5.
Yeah.
I picture us leaping from
6.
tree to tree.
6 hit points.
Great
Footprints.
redwoods. So that is sort of my question. What are you, and Nicholas is in a similar boat, what are you guys doing as you're trying to run away? This is sort of a speed is of the essence time is of the essence, kind of idea.
Well, we see the marsh, correct?
Yeah, you guys are solidly in the marsh. Because of the way the encampment is set up, and because of how dense the marshes are, the area where all the orcs were was reasonably sort of dry, solid ground, but it was also really well cleared. So the areas where the orcs are is like basically a huge clearing inside of the mists and marshes that nobody knows is really there. Nobody knows that there's this giant orc army there. And the marshland at the edge of that very quickly turns into very dense marshland that's wet and that it goes right back into being sort of dense, jungly marshland. So you guys it's a harsh transition to go from the big open clearings to
Right.
now being covered.
Are there a
in
lot
dense
of
jungle.
trees?
There are a ton of trees, yeah.
Right. So, I wonder, is there a way we could fool them, like go in one direction but not really go in one direction?
How much does the mud here leave footprints?
The muddy areas, quite a bit. You can kind of walk in between the land bits and stay to the sort of more watery parts of the marshes, and then you're not leaving nearly as much footprint. But obviously, it's harder to walk through that way.
I have an idea. We'll walk in one direction for 3 days and then walk straight back so they think we went in that direction.
Well, first off, let's just start moving, getting away from the camp. So
You guys can be kind of having this conversation as you're
Okay.
tromping.
Do we know how orcs do tracking? Do they like have dogs, or do they do it by scent? Do we know what they do?
That's a good question. Both everybody roll me. I guess we'll say either history or survival, whichever one you'd like to use. And I'm going to say Grollo. You spent some time being trained by your mentor. You can roll with advantage.
Okay.
14.
I'm lifting my arms up in triumph. For those of you watching,
Oh.
yeah, because I got a 25.
Oh.
Well, 15 for me.
All right. Well, you guys actually have a pretty decent idea. Okay. We'll do Thrain and Grollo first. The two of you know that orcs are not necessarily as a people, as a race, but most of the tribal orcs are very good at tracking. This is basically what they do: is they track animals, they track people, they are very accomplished at that. Most of the time they do so without the use of any animals. However, the two of you do know that in certain instances they will use some animals to help track through scent and stuff like that. But there are lots of orcs. Actually, there's whole tribes of orcs that specifically specialize in like being able to track people through scent or being exceptionally well-versed trackers. Shush, I will give you that you not only know that, but you also have heard of the Lost Thorns. The Lost Thorns were a tribe of orcs that specifically were hunters. It was basically what they did, and as they became more integrated, as they got larger, the Lost Thorns started to become more of sort of bounty hunter mercenaries, and they were often well known for that. You have no idea whether or not the Groomsh banner has incorporated the Lost Thorns, but they use wargs to track their prey, in addition to being skilled trackers themselves.
Okay.
I can I ask a question? Is there a way I would know some of these tracking techniques, or have heard of them, or have seen them? And
Yeah, actually, I think Grollo, you probably are a reasonably skilled tracker
Okay.
on your own. So
And then
I
the
would
other-
say you probably do know some.
that makes sense. And then the other question is, well, actually, okay. So I'm gonna say something. What if we bottleneck them and like take them out one by one?
A good idea. How would we do that?
I don't know. We have to find a place that's like a choke point.
Okay.
I'll point out it's an army of tens of thousands of orcs.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna send. They're not gonna send everyone after us.
Who are you talking to?
They're not.
Who are you arguing with?
I don't know. Like in my head, I'm thinking, if I'm them, I'm not going to just leave my camp abandoned and send everyone after us. We're nobodies to them.
Yeah, I'm still curious who you're arguing with.
Well, I'm trying to convince you guys that we should bottleneck them.
I said I like it. Let's
do it.
I think we should take our scents, our odors, and put them on trees in directions we're not going.
I do have to go number 2.
I think you should
It's been some time.
be careful.
do it.
I don't think we've ever specified that that's ever happened in the game, which means, as far as we know, that's never happened.
I have like 5.
It's time to go.
I have like 5 weeks of.
I think
when you gotta go.
Yeah.
When you gotta go, you wait 5 weeks.
I see. I think you should do that.
All right.
Right,
do
so
it.
we're gonna put our scents in the trees.
Okay.
But like on like rocks and throw it.
Okay.
So
Are
that
you
we-
doing it
Oh,
in
like
the same
spread it, like
methodology
spread
that
out.
Thrain is,
Well,
is
okay. So,
using?
do I know which way is north?
I will say, Thrain, you have like a vague idea.
Does anyone know which way north is?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you do not. Just
thought
can say that.
I would give it a try.
So
the marshlands make it nearly impossible to tell. Thrain, the only reason you have any idea which way is north is because your vision sort of gave you an opportunity to sort of zoom over the camp.
in my vision, my God said we have to go generally this direction. So we should throw them off to think we're going that direction.
Oh, okay. Now, hear me out. What if we throw them off and then return to their camp?
I'm guessing they are not all going to follow us, and
Well, that's what I said.
yeah.
Never mind.
I like your first idea. Okay, so we try to spread our scent, if you will, in one sort of direction, and then we take a right angle and go the direction that.
How do we know which one's right?
So based on your sort of general vague idea here, Thrain, you can tell the part of the marshes you sort of left the east side of the west side, the west side of the clearing, which is vaguely the direction back to Pahiha, but it may not benefit you to go back to the main city at this point.
I look at Nicholas and say, "How do you feel? Are you pretty? Do you feel pretty strong right now?"
No, I also was hit by a whole bunch of arrows. Like I feel mostly like full of holes, I guess, if I was gonna classify it.
Because we're about to head into some pretty hairy territory, and it's possible that you're better off. We're all better off with maybe you leading them back to Pahiha, getting back, and you should get back to Pahiha and hide out, and then the 3 of us can maybe go a different direction.
I don't think we should let him go by himself.
I think what if we all go with him to distract them while we head up north?
Well, I'm just hoping that one person might be able to, manage his way faster or something. And
We can't both go both ways, right?
You can see Nicholas has already started picking up stones and like rubbing them in his armpits, and he's holding these armpit stones in his hands, and he kind of gives you a long look, and his expression goes kind of blank, Thrain, and he says, I think this is it. And then he sort of stands up a little straighter, and he says, "It's been a pleasure traveling with you." And then he collects the stones from the rest of you, and he puts them in his bag, and he just gives you all like kind of a long look, and then you see him turn and start racing out of the swamp towards the west.
Nicholas, wait! That was poop!
may Moradin be with you. We will see you again.
Is he really leaving us?
He travels as fast as he can. Nicholas is not that big a guy, but he definitely you hear the splashing and sloshing of him
what a
heading in
guy.
that
I
direction.
want to tell him never to forget Moradin. The band.
You can shout that after
I don't
him.
want to shout it.
Oh.
I want to like put my hand on his shoulder.
Oh, like before he leaves.
before he leaves.
And we'll meet you at Cruddy's again.
And he before I guess this all happens before he sort of takes off.
Yeah.
But
I'm also going to give him
he says,
a healing word.
we'll share some Lee pies together, maybe.
Wait, what is this with Cruddy and Lee pies? Just because you're leaving, don't you think you can go to Cruddy now?
I would never go without you.
All right. Well, here, I'm going to miss you.
He like has trouble breathing, but he gives you a hug back all the same.
All right.
Grollo.
I just, for the
and
viewers at home, I just gave him a huge Grollo hug.
it's a tight hug, Grollo. You get a sense as he hugs you that there's
He's
a
losing
real
hit points.
moment where he holds on very tight.
I'm gonna heal him for 4 hit points
It's
before he leaves.
instead of the hideous false smile that your healing word gives sometimes,
Yeah.
which is how you described it in
Right.
the previous game.
Yeah, no, the word Moradin is gonna be my healing word.
Yeah.
The band,
But
not
he
the
gives
guy, no offense.
he gives a real genuine smile, and you do see some of his like scratches and bruises lighten up just a little bit. And he says, "I'll do my best to throw him off your trail." And he says, "But you gotta bring this back around.
We will.
If everything is true, you're gonna need to bring some reinforcements."
Be strong.
I'll
You can do it.
Give him a couple armpit stones myself.
Yeah. He takes your armpit stones, puts them in his bag. And at that, I want everybody to roll me perception checks.
12.
7.
13.
Awesome. I guess Grollo and Thrain, the two of you notice you start hearing shouts and noises. You're maybe a good... it took a little bit longer than you wanted, so you're maybe a good 5 minutes in lead time from the army, from the clearing. But you can tell they have definitely figured out that you have escaped and that you are
Okay.
which direction you went.
I wonder
So
if we can hide in the trees.
they're chasing
while-
you down.
I wonder if we can hide in the trees while he gets a head start.
Does that make sense given the terrain that we could hide in a tree?
Not if they're good trackers. Yeah, you could hide in a tree. You could climb into a tree at least. If they are actually good trackers, they will find you in a tree in a.
Is there
a
water
second.
around?
There is water around.
So-
and it's very murky, dark water.
So start heading into the water right from there because that's where the trail is.
Yeah.
And then just start, staying in the water and trying to
But
get
kinda
off
weaving
of the
through the-
trail.
through the water
like,
parts?
Like at least, I don't know, at least 100 yards or something before we touch any land again.
Okay, cool. And Nicholas does just the opposite. He's basically like runs through the water and then hops up onto the next trail for speed over stuff. And you can see every once in a while, as he takes off, he's tossing out stones to act as sort of scent markers.
Cool.
And before he kind of disappears into the mist, he gives one last sort of turnaround and a smile. And he's still wearing like the last vestiges of his Guar outfit. And so he kind of gives a smile and holds up a hand.
Oh, the horns.
The horns.
The shoe shorns.
The shoeshorns, symbol of Moradin,
Hey,
the
Shush.
band.
Can I yell goodbye at him now?
No, we're trying to hide.
Oh, right.
And then he drops another stone and takes off down into the fog.
Wow, epic. So
I'm feeling kind of sad about that.
yeah.
I liked him.
Well, we'll see him again.
We'll see him again with some Lee pies.
Yeah.
Okay.
That means that you guys are taking off north. So here's what I need. You need to roll me. This is a Constitution saving throw. You're essentially trying to trudge as quickly as possible through mud and water.
I also have some spell slots left. I would like to use healing word on both
Get
of
some
them.
extra healing words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will heal Thrain for 4, and I will heal Grollo for 5.
Nice. It is
13
A
on
good
this-
use, as you guys
Five,
definitely do
or
not have time for
you
a short
heal me
rest.
for 5?
Yes.
Oh, I'm up to 7.
You said I'm rolling a Constitution saving throw?
Yep.
9.
13.
Hold your horses.
Nice.
17 plus 4. Nice.
Grollo, you are definitely taking the lead.
All right.
Tromping your way through. Partly maybe because Grollo is easily the tallest person in the group, so it's definitely a lot easier to get through. But Grollo, you are definitely finding the sort of physical strength to power through a lot of this.
He thrives in physical challenges.
You do this for about, I guess we'll say, 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes of hard work. It's 20 minutes of worry that you may be caught up to at any moment. But you can hear that the forces or whatever that is chasing after you do seem to have. They seem to be dying off. It's likely true that they're chasing down Nicholas's trail rather than your own. And after about 20 minutes of this, you finally come to an area where you can see that there is a wider path and clearing in the forest because there is a river running through this section of the swampland. The river seems to be sort of a steady flowing river that's wide enough that you will have to probably swim to get across it, or you could swim down along with the remainder of the river as it's going. But it
What
seems like it's
direction is
probably
it going?
getting pretty deep. It is headed north,
Oh.
which is downhill from here for the marshes.
The current is going north.
Yes, the current is going north.
Nice.
Can we float on something?
Ooh.
It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, give me a perception check, and Grollo, you can roll a survival check.
Perception.
19.
The battle for the
Perception,
Roll
I
and
got
try.
11.
11, 19, 17. All right. Grollo, you know that it's probably true that the army would pass through here. They probably have some kind of rafts or something similar to be able to traverse the river. Do you say anything about it?
So, unfortunately, this river's probably not headed where we want to go, but if it were, that would be useful because I bet you these orcs have some boats stashed around here.
Good. It is headed the direction we want to go.
Well, then let's look for boats.
Okay.
Thrain, with that, you are able to sort of scan up and down the banks, and it's not too hard for you to track down, not really boats, but sort of rafts.
Okay.
More like logs, kind of all tied together, and like a long stick to paddle your way through.
Huck Finn style.
For three
Yeah, Huck
people
Finn
or,
style.
or solo?
Yeah, big enough for maybe even up to 5. It really it's not gigantic, but it's easily big enough to fit all 3 of you.
All right, quickly, on to the boat.
As you get onto the boat, you guys can notice a couple of things. The first is you start to smell the smell of burning. You suspect that they are burning portions of the marshland in order to try to track you down or weed you out. But it's coming from far enough behind you. You can kind of get an idea for the smoke, though the mists make it very difficult to actually see where the smoke is coming from. But you know it's far enough behind you that it's not a threat at the moment. The other thing that you notice is this boat's a moving. You're really traveling down the river much faster than you would have by foot. And now that you're headed in this direction, you can even hear the sounds of the people who are chasing you starting to die off in the distance.
One thing. Can I have done something before we took off on the boat?
Sure.
We should probably release the other boats too.
Oh, okay.
There are about 4 or 5, I will say 4 other boats that are all rafts that are kind of all lashed to trees in the same area.
Good thinking, Grollo.
That's great thinking, Grollo. Can we burn them?
Well, attract attention, maybe.
I guess that's true. Good point.
Unless you have something that like really can start a fire, it would be much harder to burn these. They're probably using something like alchemist fire or something a very strong flaminant. What's the word I'm looking for?
Flame enabler.
Flame enabler. Very strong flame enabler in order to even start the fires. This marshlands, everything's wet. You guys are soaked to the bone, and you only just kind of came into the marshlands. So.
Let's I guess like destroy the rafts a little bit, so they're not as good.
Sure, totally. You can
want 'em to just
beat
go to
them
the
up
side,
a little
yeah.
bit.
Oh, smash!
Grollo smashes a couple. You guys are now traveling down the river. Who knows how to sail boats?
You do, Shoosh. You
Yeah,
had a
Oh
boat.
yeah, that's right. You had a boat.
It's kind of my thing.
Shoosh, give me a I guess dexterity saving throw with advantage, as you're
right.
basically steering this boat along.
Right. I will take a 23 on that.
Awesome.
Wow.
Then I will give you guys two things.
I'm doing it like a Washington crossing the Delaware, like standing at the front.
Standing
of
at the front, but like somehow still holding the thing to direct it.
Yeah.
Or maybe telling Grollo where to steer.
Really majestic.
Yeah.
I'm holding on with all four limbs because I hate being on water.
It is a little uncomfortable, and I'll point out it's still kind of swamp water. You guys are traveling along, but the water's not really super nice water. It's
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to be extra brave looking for Thrain. So like I see Thrain hating every moment of this. I'm like trying to. I'm not. Shoosh is maybe not as good at like telling Thrain it's gonna be okay, but we'll like totally look extra confident on this boat so that Thrain
instill some
yeah.
confidence in
Thrain
the Thrain.
feels a little less scared because Shoosh seems to know what he's doing.
So as you guys are traveling along, I'm going to give you finally an opportunity to take a short rest. You're on this raft, and you have a chance to sort of catch your breath. And it sounds like you are getting far enough away from the sounds of people tracking you that you finally have a moment to maybe like rip some clothes and bandage some wounds. And,
I'm starving.
and all of that.
So is this short rest then?
This is a short rest, not a long rest.
Does anyone have any food?
Yeah, I have food in my backpack.
Ugh.
Here's some food.
You have some rations.
So we
They're
get
now
to,
like soggy biscuits or like
we get to heal our hit dice.
Yeah, so short rest means that you can get back. You can use your hit dice in order to heal yourself. So you can, where it says hit dice under your temporary hit points and next to your death saving throws, you can choose some of your hit dice and you can use them to heal up a little bit.
D12.
So you can roll them one at a time, and each roll gets to also add your Constitution modifier to your current hit points. It's basically representative of you sort of bandaging your wounds and, and
So
taking a
I
breather
don't
and
understand. I
getting your
roll
fortitude
this
back.
thing 3 times.
You roll it once and then see how much you get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the odd your con mod.
5. That's 12.
Your
I got
con
12.
modifier.
Oh. Wait, how much did I get? 5? Yeah. 9.
Perfect.
So I
So,
got 9.
you heal up 9 hit points,
Oh.
and you can
So-
do that up to 3 times per day if you want, including all at once. You also have a special ability
Oh gosh, do I?
called Song of Rest.
My Song of Rest. I will play my violin while we are enjoying our
leisurely cruise
Yeah,
through
yeah.
swamp water.
I will play my Song of Rest extra quiet.
Wait, where's my hit points here?
In the sort of center box right under your armor class.
Yeah, but my maximum is 40.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna do this again. Ooh, a 12 plus my Constitution.
Mod.
Modifier, yeah. So the plus bonus on your
whoops.
Constitution.
This plus 2.
Right.
Oops, I need to subtract 2.
Oh yeah.
It's
So
14 and then 14. Okay. that's
because I'm playing my sweet Song of Rest while we're going down this raft, everyone gets an extra 1d6.
I'm all healed anyway.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
good. You are. I get an extra 1d6.
1d6 extra because my beautiful, beautiful soul.
How do you miss?
There is a rolling box.
Ah, 1. Do I get
It's-
to add my Constitution to this?
No,
Not
just
to
a
that one,
d6.
yeah.
That's
That's
just
just-
my sweet song gave you 1
29.
1 hit point. It's a beautiful song
And
though.
I have 1 roll left. Should I use it up? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
why
have,
not?
if you need more,
I just used up all mine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Twitch. 6.
you should be maxed out.
35. I'm close. I am 5 points away from max.
So not bad. So you guys are all mostly healed up
Yeah.
through this, it
All
sounds
the
like?
way healed up
Awesome.
is
All right.
So before anything else happens, you during this short rest period, you guys have an opportunity to sort of touch base with each other on what you think you should do next. It sounds like you're headed north because Thrain has a vision of that. I'm curious what Thrain's going to tell the rest of the group
Okay.
and what this looks like.
Well, I might have already said this, but I'm not sure in all of my conversations with my god Moradin, but Moradin bestowed upon me a vision of the mountains in which we are,
yes. We've heard about the vision.
and the cave and the hammer, and how it will, I am guessing, be the instrument of my god to send back to hell.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds good to me.
I'm just sad about Nick.
We'll see him again. We will eat Lee pies with him again. Moradin knows of our mission and will guide him.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Cool. That sounds great. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page for that. You guys have a chance to sort of relax and get your breath back.
Well, I reminisce about, so who snapped Justin's neck?
You were
I
trying.
don't know if I actually did. Did I actually snap?
I think you did, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Justin was definitely dead. I think you grabbed him. I think you snapped his neck with your
Well, it
legs.
was really awesome when you managed to get your feet out of the thing and then you grappled them with your legs, and then that was a very
Well, let's not forget, I hit him first with my legs. I mean,
was it you first?
no, I mean, I didn't kill him, but like, I mean, it was. Like, we should remember that. Anyways, why don't we sing a song?
I think we should still be quiet. Oh. I think we could sing a song like this, though.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's sing a song about.
A whisper song.
Well, how
on the
about we'll
swamp.
sing a song to Nicholas?
Oh yes.
Go, Nicholas, run, run, run.
Nicholas,
Run, run, run. You'll make it.
You'll make it. Oh, sorry. You'll make it. Yeah. I like that song.
perfect.
Shusha's playing the violin underneath that.
Shush, as the violin dies down for the end of the song, you notice a couple of things. Shush, you've been doing a great job keeping the raft paddling along and moving along in the right direction. What you notice is that the current has picked up quite a bit. And now that the song has died down, you notice that you hear a roaring sound coming from sort of the distance ahead of you.
Roaring like whitewater rapids. Like, this could be fun. Hold on, everybody. Or whitewater, or like sound like waterfall.
I'll say most of your experience is on like ocean waves and not on rivers.
Oh, great.
So I'm gonna say you don't know the difference.
But I hear something.
You hear something
Enough to know that it could be a thing that's bad.
You know it's gonna get choppy in some way.
Okay.
Coming up.
Can I perceive the distant?
The mists make it very, very difficult for you to actually see what you're doing beyond like making sure you're in the middle of the middle-ish of the
Okay.
banks.
Is there a place to sort of run the raft ashore to get off here? Or do we have to like abandon ship?
Yeah, give me one more sort of dexterity saving throw, and you can attempt to do so.
Okay. Do I have advantage on this one
Yes, yeah.
again? Natural 20.
Okay. As soon as you notice this, Shush, you immediately jump into action and start steering this raft kind of edging over to the banks.
I'm also going to do this with no concern on my face at all.
It's just like a happy.
To protect Thrain's
He's still
concern.
humming the song a little bit.
Nick, run.
Brain. Look how confidently he steers our ship.
It's very impressive. It's like
to worry about.
natural 20 impressive.
Grollo and Thrain, you definitely notice the water is picking up in speed, and before too long, you too notice the sort of roaring sound coming from up ahead of you. But I will say, with a natural 20, I cannot deny that you managed to finagle the raft over closer to the banks. Right as you guys can see on the edge of the mist, a massive waterfall appears. And Shush, you're able to sort of steer the raft up to the edge of the banks, right nearby the sort of lip of the waterfall. And you guys can get off, or you can lash the raft, whatever you want to do. There's a large cliff that sort of sits here, and you could maybe make your way down the other side of the cliff, but you are now sort of at an impasse. I guess I'm curious, would you go west bank?
I would probably steer to the right bank.
The other side bank?
The east bank.
The east bank?
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure.
I don't know why that would do that.
Well,
I
it's
think
further away from the bad guys.
I guess that's true. Yeah. That makes sense.
Cool. It doesn't make a huge difference.
No,
right now.
I was just wondering why
checking.
I had absolutely pictured going to the right, and I don't know if there's like
pictured
some sort
that
of nautical rule that I'm just subconsciously following. Like
Probably driving, actually.
Yeah, maybe it's driving. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm just
pulling over.
You're going to pull over on the side of the road.
Driving
You're
in
gonna pull over
America,
on
I
the
pull over on the side.
Yeah.
Is there a break in the mist as there's a waterfall? Does the mist go down and thus I can see any of the horizon? Can I see the mountain that we're questing after?
Oh, good question. Yes.
I would
Yeah,
imagine that
absolutely.
There's enough distance there that I could see the horizon.
The waterfall sort of throws up a lot more water, but yeah, you can totally, because of the difference in sort of height, you can see over the mist from the next part of the marshes. Yeah, you can see the mountain that you're headed towards.
Whoa!
I think we need to name this mountain because it's going to come back up.
Cue like epic music sound
Yeah.
as it clears from the mist.
Perfect. Actually, Berto, why don't you give me a letter? We'll start naming this mountain.
A.
We're going to name it Mount something. Or something mountain.
K.
R.
E.
A.
That's pretty good.
Mount Akria.
Mount Akrea.
I love it.
Akrea.
Mount Akrea sits near sort of the top portion of the continent. Now, Thrain, you are from the north, if I remember right. And Mount Akrea is reasonably far east of where you're from. Far enough that if you went to Mount Akrea, you'd still be weeks' journey from where your homeland. But Mount Akrea is also one of the largest mountains in the. So I guess we'll say it is the largest mountain in the mountain range, and it is hard to pass. There's a large mountain range that is to the north that makes it very difficult to pass from kind of the area where you are in the kingdom to the kingdoms up north. And in fact, this is the mountain range that actually marks the edge of the kingdom, the kingdom that the king and ruler of Piha actually sort of presides over, which includes many other rulers and many other towns and leaders and things like that. But the mountain range up there and the mountain especially of Akria is a big marker to sort of the edge of the empire.
Nicholas, I miss you. But, wow, Shush, that was impressive.
Oh, it was nothing.
We almost went over that cliff.
Oh, we didn't really.
Well, I mean, you looked very confident, but
I
we
was.
almost went over that cliff.
I was. Very
And,
confident.
anyways, is that the mountain we're going to?
It is Mount Akrea of the north, border of the empire, home of the hammer of Moradin.
Oh, that's cool. Can I get some cool thing there, too, like a new mall or...
If Moradin sees fit,
The band?
the god.
Oh, right. Right.
Easy to get them confused.
No, I'm
One of
still
them's
wearing
really
part of the
famous.
band attire.
The other one's a god.
It's totally fair. I think that's going to happen a lot, actually. From your guys' position, you can see that there are figures down near the base of the waterfall, which appear to be a group of orcs. It looks like 3 orcs that are down there.
I'm hungry.
Because of where you're at, and because it's basically like dense mists and everything like that, it's really unlikely that they know that you are up here. But you can see they appear to be injured. You can see that they have some injuries, and their dress and attire doesn't look the same as the orcs that have been chasing you down.
You said that they're down the waterfall?
They're sort of on the bank, but down the cliff below you, on
kinda
the
took a
banks of
peek.
the. Yeah, you sort of look over the edge of the cliff and you can see
Are
them.
they, like, in the distance, or can we, like, overhear what they're talking about?
They're too far in the distance, especially with the roar of the
Because
waterfall.
that was
for you to overhear.
the reason we were looking over is because I was trying to make a point that we almost went over, and Shush was like, "It wasn't even close." And I'm like, "I was pretty close."
She's like motioning with his hands, like, "All right, we look at how far away."
That's pretty far down.
It's fine. No problem. You can trust me.
But wait, what's that? Look at them.
Grollo, can you tell what tribe they're from?
Can I?
Yes. I'm gonna just give it to
Okay.
you, Grollo.
Oh, why, yes. They're from the
They're from the Grimhammer tribe.
Grimhammer tribe.
Did you see any Grimhammer tribesmen at the army?
Grollo, you were very familiar with the Grimhammer tribe. The Grimhammer tribe is the tribe that your father belonged to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will also kind of give it to you guys as a reminder. You had seen some stuff showing that the Grimhammer tribe had not joined up with Grumsh, with Blancmere, all of them.
Meaning that they're not. They purposely did not join.
Right.
They were asked to join or tried to be forced to join.
Yeah, in the logbook, you saw that they had been approached or whatever, but they turned it down.
Like as a rebellion or just as a agree to disagree.
At this point, you guys don't really have any clues to that, but.
Am I allowed to use my knowledge that our game master has a fundamental belief in inherent goodness in people to assume that if we try talking to these Grimhammers, maybe they might talk back? Or is that too meta?
How injured are they? Can I tell?
It looks like they're kind of bandaging themselves up, much the way you guys did when you were.
Well, do they seem mobile?
Yeah, they seem largely pretty mobile. One of them's limping a little bit, but you're looking at them from pretty far away, and so you can't hear them, and you can tell that they're sort of their body language is arguing with each other, but you can see they're sort of bandaging themselves up.
How hard would it? Sorry, Brett. How hard would it be to get down there?
Not crazy hard. I think the jungle kind of atmosphere means there's lots of like trees and vines and stuff you could kind of climb down the cliff face in order to get down there.
So the situation right now is I am picking up a very large stone and I'm getting ready to drop it on their heads.
Grollo, just a second.
But they're from the Grimhammer tribe.
Let's think about this. Let's just think. We're in a very tough spot, and we might be able to use this to our advantage. Hold on. You might kill them. That might be it. But
fine, I'll trust you.
So if we head down there, they look injured. We could probably take them. Remember that they did. Your father's tribe did not join the Grumsh, the Lord Blancmere army. So we have a common enemy. Maybe they might be able to help us. At least we should ask them to see.
Fine. But I'm not going to smile while I ask.
Yeah. And don't you have a revenge goal on your father?
Yes.
Well, maybe they'll lead us to your father.
Good point. They're from my father's tribe.
Yeah, that's what you said.
As you guys, so we don't keep using your father, Grollo, do you know the name of your father? I don't know if we ever actually wrote it down or made a name.
No, I know my mentor was Sarabo.
Right.
But I don't have a name for my father.
Should we make up a name, or do you have a name in mind?
I don't have a name in mind.
Grollo, son of...
Yeah,
you guys can hear the pulling of the of the whiteboard marker. Well, I think Berto, I think you have to give the first letter for your father's name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
K.
R.
A.
G.
Krog. That seems...
Grollo, son of Krog?
That seems...
Should it have a like...
one of those little...
Krog.
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 I love it.
Awesome. So now you can say Krog instead of your father.
Yeah, because that makes sense. My daddy.
Okay, so...
They're from Krog's tribe.
Your father, yes. So we try to make our way down there as quiet as possible.
So what I'm going to have you roll, rather than like athletics checks to climb, it's reasonably easy to climb down, but doing so quietly and unseen is the sort of harder part. So I want everybody to roll me stealth checks.
Okay.
Well, I have disadvantage from my armor, so I got a 12.
16.
Oh, that's actually not bad for disadvantage.
17.
I think you guys are probably fine. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. With those rolls, you guys have quietly made your way. So I'm going to say you went like a little further inland, then climbed down the side of the cliff face, so you could have the kind of cover of trees and stuff like that. And you're now down at the bottom of the cliff, and you can now kind of overhear a little bit of their conversation as they are still kind of bandaging each other up. They're almost done with that, but they've been doing that while you guys were climbing down.
What did they say?
There are 2 women and 1 guy that are sort of all there and a little bit arguing with each other. And one of the women says, it's a disaster. I can't believe that it went this way. And the guy sort of waves his hand and he says, of course it went this way. We all expected it to go this way. We knew this was not going to turn out well, not with Grumsh involved. And one of the other women says, I just wish that we had been more prepared. I wish that we had set up our rounds a little bit better. And the guy says, there's nothing we can do about it now.
Is it rounds?
Rounds, yeah.
Rounds.
There's nothing we can do about it now. At this point, we must return and hope that they don't chase us down in the process.
Are they speaking common?
I understand
No,
Orcish.
I think this is all in
understand
Orcish. So Shush, you don't get any of this.
So,
They're grunting.
you got that, Shush?
No, I heard grunting.
What? No, they were saying.
Kind of a guttural.
Yeah.
What you were talking about? They were talking
Mumbling
that nothing went right and their plan didn't work and they're gonna get caught and things.
I say, follow me, and I just walk out into the clearing. And
Cool. You catch one more thing that I'll give to you kind of before you walk out, which is the guy who's just sort of sitting down. It says, yes, we'll get a move on as soon as the tracker returns. And but you can totally step out into the clearing as you do that, unless that changes your action.
Well, maybe. I don't. So I turn. I said, "There's a tracker coming. Should we wait for the tracker? They have a 4th. Should we wait for the 4th to return?
How about I kill the 3 of them and then kill the tracker?
We should question them before you kill them.
Right. We should just hurry up before the tracker gets back.
Shush. What do you think?
I think it makes sense to learn more about them before we kill them.
That
But
makes
should we
sense.
go? Should we go now, or should we wait for the tracker to get back?
They look like they're ready to leave, so I think we're more likely to get them now before he comes back.
So, follow me, and I walk out into the clearing, and I have my hammer and shield, and I say, "Orcs, you will answer my questions, and you might live."
They are completely taken by surprise.
As
this,
of us.
yeah.
And like,
I'll point out you don't have a hammer anymore.
Oh, I lost my hammer.
Yeah, you can still have the club with the
right,
sort of
you
spike
didn't,
in
there
it.
was that's right. You didn't have your hammer.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So I have my club.
But I'm next to you, looking like you have to hold me back.
You come tromping out of the forest with holding all this stuff and sort of shouting at them, and they all sort of like spring backwards, and they draw some weapons, and they all kind of look at you for a long time before one of the orc women sort of speaks up and says, "Some kind of swamp dwarf." And she sort of holds out her weapon. She says, "We have no quarrel with you, swamp dwarf.
We have no quarrel with you either, but you will answer our questions, and you might live.
You will answer our questions about swamp dwarf ways of life."
Oh, Thrain, let me at them.
Hold on. We understand, did not join the Lord Blancmere and his army. Is that correct? You are from the Grimhammer tribe.
You can see the woman who's sort of speaking up, who eyes you very suspiciously, and she says, "You're with Lord Blancmere?"
No, we are not. We just escaped from their camp, and we have killed many of their people because we hate them.
Yes.
She says, "We are with the Grimhammer tribe, and we did deny Lord Blancmere our allegiance, and it cost us many tribesmen.
Why did you deny it?
We don't believe in the ways of Grumsh. We no longer believe in following ridiculous ideals or bringing chaos to the land.
Oh,
It is
but you
not our
bring
way.
chaos to the towns, and you raise them, and you pillage them.
Hold your tongue, halfling.
This is it, Thrain. I'm going in.
Hold on. Well, what do you believe in?
We follow the ways of Lorlith.
What's Lorlith? Do I know Lorlith?
I do.
You don't.
I do.
But Grollo does.
I've heard of that. With the what? Say, what did you just say?
We follow the ways of Lorlith as we've done for years, since our leader brought the teachings to us.
What's Lorlith?
And I kind of whispered to him, That's the same thing that Cruddy believes in. She was sort of teaching me about it.
Oh.
If Cruddy believes in it, then it can't be all bad.
So you have turned away from the evil and the chaos that is the usual of the orcs.
Not just turned, but purged, as all members of the Grimhammer tribe have. We are no longer members of Groomsh's people, and Groomsh no longer has sway over us.
Well, then we don't have a reason to harm each other because I believe we're on the same side.
If that's true, Swamp Dwarf, then you can lower your weapon first.
I lowered it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have not lowered my maul.
And for your companion,
Well,
His
you
name
lower
is-
your weapon too, then.
His name is Grollo, and we can all respect each other here. Shush, Grollo, and I am Thrain, Orkshorn, and I'm a sworn enemy of Lord Blancmere, and I will vanquish him.
she considers for half a second, and then she motions to the other two for them to lower their weapons, and she does the same.
Fine.
And she says, "You may know me as Alyssa Grimhammer.
Alyssa.
These are my companions, Lou and Washrith."
Well, we have not seen a friendly face in a long time.
We still haven't, I say under my breath.
Yes.
She kind of has a grimace this whole time, so she doesn't seem to react, but she clearly heard you.
Where I heard of a fourth.
Yes, our tracker. He's scouting up ahead, making sure that the path is clear.
Where are you headed?
We're headed back to our tribe's lands.
Where's that?
It is but just a couple of days' journey to the north.
To the north.
Yes, it'll take us out of these horrid swamplands.
Are you heading towards Mount Acrea?
Our tribe is on the way there, if that is your destination.
It is our destination.
Well, unless I've missed my guess, I believe we're still being pursued by some of the armies of Groomsh. They
As
were
are
not
we.
happy about our answer.
As are we. They are pursuing us because we killed some of them and escaped. But we will return.
We tricked them. They're no longer pursuing us, I'm sure.
They might be expanding their zone of search.
Oh, poor Nicholas.
Nicholas will make it. We will eat lee pies with him, one way or the other.
All right.
In this life or the next.
All right.
Well, we should wait for our tracker to return, but for the time being, it seems we have a peace and accord. Thrain, Swamp Dwarf of Moradin.
I shake her hand, by the way.
And what were your names again?
Is she
Grollo.
is she talking to me?
Yes.
Yes.
And-
She asked what your name is.
She wants to know.
Shoosh.
Yes. Is there something wrong with your friend?
He doesn't speak Orcish.
Oh. Alyssa.
Shoosh.
Alyssa.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome to Sulakbak.
That's the. She says she's very upset at everything.
What did,
Alyssa the orc.
what did I say? Oh,
No. She's fine with you. She's fine with you.
She holds out her hand and shakes your hand.
thank goodness.
She says, "Come, sit, eat, share in our food to further solidify our trust."
Will do.
Did she
And she-
extend her hand to me to shake it?
She does, and does Grollo shake her hand?
I think no. SWAT.
You swat her hand out of the way.
We may be allied for now, but I have my own reasons for disliking your tribe.
You will share in the meat that we break, or we will attack you in a preemptive strike in order to stop you from striking us down later on.
Grollo, people judge you before they know you, do they not?
Is this one of those ear-pulling things?
No. When people see you in towns, the humans, they see you and they think that you are evil, but you're not.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay, well then we should tell them that I'm not evil.
Has anyone ever treated you unfairly?
Everyone treats everyone unfairly unless you're strong.
True, you can be strong, but remember that one town we went to where the entire
Is this one of those ear pulling things?
I think it might be.
All right, I remember now.
and they were unfair to you. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, they were unfair to me.
Well, they were judging you before they got to know you.
Because they thought I was part of the blood of the Grimhammer tribe?
Correct.
Oh,
Well,
fine.
So we don't want to judge. These people have changed their ways, and they are now on our side.
Fine, I'll take your meat.
People can change their ways.
I'll take your meat.
She says, "You do not need to like it, nor do you need to shake my hand, orc, but you will take the meat and you will eat it, as we all will."
I am pretty hungry, actually.
It's just like a salted sort of jerky meat.
this is
that she
delicious.
has. Yes, it is halfling.
Oh,
She seriously says it's halfling?
Deadpan fully says that and waits for all of you to sort of like stop.
Shush can't understand. Shush
yeah. So he's still.
He's like, "That sounds great."
We're like, oh,
And then she bursts out laughing.
oh, you.
She says, I thought I would get you with
That's
that.
not funny.
I thought it was quite hilarious.
But what is it?
And then she's like, "Why are you
It's
laughing?"
wild boar.
Shush is like doing that thing where you like mirror somebody's facial expression.
Everybody's- she laughs.
Did you find that funny? I didn't think it was funny.
I thought it was funny.
Well, you have a grim sense of humor.
I suppose. No.
At this time, you guys hear a voice sort of speak up from the woods, and a figure starts to sort of walk out of the woods. And the figure is holding a like a throwing spear, but has it sort of down at their side, and comes walking out and says, "Well, since you've broken meat together, I assume this is a friendly gathering and not assassins sent by Grumsh." And Alyssa waves and says, "Yes, come and sit, Crag. Have a break meat with us. We must get going if we're ever going to get ahead of the army."
And it's not halfling, just so you know.
Well, wait. Does Grollo recognize the guy?
No.
Grollo, you have, I assume, no idea what your father looks like.
Oh.
Wait, what? This is the tracker, right?
Yeah.
He's called Crag.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I missed that part.
Yeah. No, that's actually great. It's like totally in character.
Okay. I missed because I wasn't paying attention.
So wait, so are we going to say his character didn't catch up?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I
wasn't paying. I was
okay.
eating.
So in character, I look at you,
I'm like,
and you're just eating.
So
And you're like,
and
it's
I
not-
say,
and all I say is like, it's not halfling. By the way.
and I say, I look at Grollo right in the eyes, and I say, "It's good to meet you, Crag."
I look over.
The orc who comes forward has he seems pretty well built, but he's definitely an older orc. But he has sort of the look of an orc that's well seasoned in the forest and able to travel really well. He keeps a steady hand on his spear, but he also keeps a long sword at his waist, and strapped to his back is a battle axe. And as he steps forward, he kind of looks over the party as a whole, and he says, "If they are enemies of Grumsh, then they are temporary friends of ours." And he kind of looks them all over, and his eyes fall steady onto Grollo.
I mean, would I not recognize him?
So it's an interesting question.
Right. Because
In this moment, it's worthwhile to establish a couple of things.
Well, your mom was really
no. Yeah, let's just rewind. The question is, did they hang around long enough for me to know, or did I just hear the stories? And I thought that I just heard the stories.
Wasn't it just one night that she?
Well, I didn't never define that. All I know is they came to my town, they took it over, lots of bad things happened, and then I was born. But and then I always heard about him and how much I hated him.
We'll establish a couple of details about Grollo's past. This is a perfect opportunity to do so. Grollo, you never met the person who was your father. You were told stories about who he was.
So I hate the idea of him.
Your mother never really talked about him much. Even in private, even when it was just the two of you, she never really talked about that night, about anything that was going on during that time. You know that the orcs came to your town, the town where you grew up with your mother, when you were very, very young.
Yeah.
And that the town suffered a lot of losses as a result. And you know that the town really kind of shunned your mother for a long time. In fact, the two of you lived outside of the town for a long, long time, and you didn't really interact at all with any of the townspeople. You also know that sort of a faithful day came when the town decided that they had had enough of you and your mother living there.
Oh.
And they came for you.
Ooh.
And you were old enough at that time to remember that experience. It was after another orc attack had happened near the outskirts of the town, and it had killed a couple of people within the town. And the townspeople, in their sort of misdirected rage, decided to come after your mother and you instead.
Because I'm like this beast child.
Exactly. The town never appreciated you as a child. And they knew about your existence, but you kept sort of out of the limelight enough. But you were a child, and you wanted to go into town, you wanted to interact with the other children, and you never really had an understanding for knowing why they hated you. And your mother tried to keep you shielded from a lot of that. And so throughout that whole experience of your childhood, finally there was a day when your mother told you that you would need to leave. And she sort of came rushing back in. You have maybe a small cottage.
Yeah.
And she came rushing back into the cottage one of the days and told you to pack up all of your things and that you had to go. And now my question for you, and this is up to you to just sort of decide the answer, was your mother killed there? Or was she by the people as you were trying to escape?
No.
Which would explain maybe how you wound up in the forest and under the mentor and tutelage of Zarapo.
Zarabo. No, I don't know if she was. She might have been.
But
all I know is
you were
I had
separated.
to leave. I was separated. I had to leave in the moment, and there surely was the threat that she might have been harmed. But that certainly was the moment when I began to hate my so-called father. Because up until then, it was just like this story about the stuff that had happened. And I was too young to really understand the full meaning anyways. But that day when it's like, I have to leave my mother behind and everything, then instead of like hating the humans, I just hated my life and therefore who created me.
Sure. And sort of all the hatred that all the humans have for you was in many ways, especially from Grollo's perspective, created by his father.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense. You never knew what happened to your mother. She, you know that she sort of pushed you out into the forest and gave you supplies, and she told you that she would come and find you, and she never did. And that was the last that you ever saw of her. And the townspeople came, and you watched from a distance as your childhood home was burned to the ground.
Oh, that's why I hate fire.
So, kind of establishing all that, now that we have that, that is the last story you ever heard about Crag, the last story you ever heard about the Grimhammers. They were told to you by your mother when you were only a small child. And that was the last real information. Your mentor talked about the Grimhammers because they at one time were a very powerful tribe, and they have since sort of fallen into obscurity, and you have not had any real opportunity to interact with them. In fact, you've never really known where the tribe was even located. So tracking down your father has been a real challenge.
Well, so unfortunately,
before you take an action, let's take a break, and we'll leave people on the edge of their seats.
On the edge.
All right, we're back from the break. So, Grollo, if you were to ask people in your Grollo way for people to become patrons of the podcast and also buy the Critical Core box set, how would Grollo do that?
Hey, listen up, everyone. I have 3 main requests. First, you buy our patron pack and make sure you get critical about the core that you're supporting us with. And that's the stuff I need to tell you today, and you do it.
There were 3 things you said at the beginning.
I forgot the third one.
Okay. Excellent. All right, what do you do, man? What's Grollo do?
Unfortunately, Grollo, because he was in his own little mind. He was eating his food, and then this dude arrives, and then you look at him funny, and then you say the name. Thrain says the name, so then he looks over, and one thing is true is that Grollo's not sophisticated enough to start doing the math of like, well, maybe there's multiple crags. So in that moment, Grollo stands up and starts facing up to the crag dude, and he says, "Are you the crag that invaded my hometown?"
Crag, his eyes have settled on you, and he's giving you a very long look and sort of a look up and down.
Can I tell if they're related at all?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the same question.
It's a good question.
Similar jawline. Slow.
I think I'm gonna say yes. Like it's maybe a little hard to tell because
We've seen a lot of work so
you've seen
far.
a lot of orcs. I think you guys have now had enough experiences to start to put some of the pieces together and be able to recognize the sort of variances and how
Can
orcs
he
look.
tell? Can Grollo tell?
Grollo, I think you know who this is.
Oh God! So are these guys going like, "Oh shit, shit's about to go down"?
I'm imagining Thrain and
might
Shush might be. Thrain certainly.
Well, yeah, the others don't know.
The
what's
others
up.
have no idea.
Yeah. I'm saying more like
Alyssa even like turns and goes, "Crag, this is Thrain, Swampwater Dwarf," and she's just sort of like
Shush
doing
doesn't
introductions.
really know. Like he
I
doesn't
can't
really
hear
know
anything.
And you can see Crag is not looking at anybody else. She's doing introductions. Crag is just sort of looking at you, and he's almost expressionless. And I think we need a couple of extra names here because
Yeah.
I'm realizing that we're going to need them. What was the name of your hometown?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know.
And we can name it one letter at a time again if we need to.
I don't think I ever wrote it down.
Cool. Adam, will you give me a letter?
F.
Oh,
T.
T.
why?
Because he's asking you, get it?
Fati?
Well, I'm hoping there's another letter after that.
40.
We could just be Fawty.
Fati.
40.
Your hometown?
My hometown of 40.
Fati.
What do you mean? 40.
Fati.
Are you brutish? Yeah, I'm brutish.
Brutish.
My hometown is 40.
I'm from Fati. Of course I'm brutish.
I had a burrito and now I'm Fawty.
What's your favorite food in 40? Beans.
Really well known for their beans and Fati. And then we need a name for Grollo's mom.
Okay, let's go less 40 for this one.
Actually, Kirk, why don't you start this one?
And it's a human name. Let's remember this.
All right. A.
S.
S.
It's my mother here.
T.
E.
R.
Esther. Okay.
Esther.
Okay, we can go with that.
But it's Aster.
Esther in 40. In 40.
Wait.
Aster lives in 40.
Asta from 40.
Perfect.
Naming session's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, let me write this down.
Once upon a time, there was a maiden named Aster from
Aster from
40,
40.
and Crag came. And then Grollo came out.
Aster. Okay.
He gives you a very long look and he says, there was a town named Fawty. I can't do it. I can't do it dramatically. The name is too ridiculous.
Footy.
We'll do our
Maybe it's
best.
pronounced Footy.
Footy?
Footy.
I don't know if it's better.
It's pronounced Footy.
Footy.
Okay. It's from the Highlands. Anyways. Yeah. No. I'm staring intently. I'm not saying anything. What are you saying?
He just says there was a town named Footy.
That was my town. Do
He
you
says,
remember my mother?
he says, I only remember one woman from Fuji.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
And then he doesn't say anything. And he looks over everyone else and he says, if we're going to get ahead of the army, we need to leave now. And he turns around and he just starts walking off.
Okay, so I just jump at him. I jump at him. I don't use my maul. I just jump at him and try to like grab his neck.
Perfect. Give me a strength check. It'll be a strength contest between the two of you.
How much has Grollo told Shush about? I know that he hates his dad, but I'm curious how much has Grollo told Shush about like the reasons why you hate your dad?
You don't know because Thrain knows a lot because we've been together for so long.
I feel like in the past 9 sessions it came up.
It did come up, but not like the whole story.
No,
though.
but you knew. I'm guessing you know that the father,
That's that. So I'm curious. Like, does Shush stop him, or are we like, okay, this is righteous justice?
Well,
you can if you want.
But it
I'm
depends.
not.
It depends on what your vision of my better outcome is. Because
Right.
if you want to calm me down because we have this bigger threat ahead of me, or if you're like, well, this is his chance to get his vengeance.
Or justice, right?
Yeah.
What is justice in this moment?
I mean, if you look at me, I'm not. I'm not doing anything.
I'm
about
literally
it.
looking at you.
Yeah, I just say-
Shush is looking at Thrain with wide open eyes because I didn't hear any of this conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
But you piece together maybe what's happening. Maybe.
I'm just resigned. I'm standing up, but I take a few steps back actually.
Yeah.
I put my hand on my rapier hilt as if I might have to throw
Oh
it
God.
down.
Okay. Should I? I'm
Roll
doing
me,
this.
roll me a
Rolling.
strength contest roll.
Oh. Eeks. 11.
Actually, you can roll this one with advantage because he definitely he has turned his back to you.
back.
Yeah.
Eeks. Well, Destiny does not want me to.
This is actually maybe perfect.
9.
Grollo, you reach for that very familiar, all-consuming anger that has driven you and that has given you the strength to overcome great odds and find an empty space
Because my
instead.
rage has been gone.
Because your rage is gone.
Right.
It doesn't stop you from jumping up and
Right.
leaping at Crag,
Which just shows how much I.
but it throws you. It effectively sort of throws you off balance, and you leap at Crag all the same, and you even tackle him to the ground. But it's more of a messy, sort of less controlled clashing into each other than it is like you really taking control of wrestling him.
And I didn't use my weapon, which is telling.
Crag crashes to the ground, and you are now on sort of on top of him.
Yeah.
And Crag has thrown his the bow that was in his hand to the side, and you see him kind of reaching down for the sword at his hip. But you have an opportunity to throw a couple punches or something in here, or try to strangle him. What are you going to try to do? All of this happens. Thrain and Shush, the two of you are basically like hopping up faster than anyone else, but you can see the 3 other orcs who are like just realizing what's going on, who suddenly start to reach for their weapons.
It's his father. Let him fight it out. I don't know if they'll stop it. That's what I say.
Yeah.
In this moment, all of a sudden, when we flip around and I'm about to like punch him, I feel like this incredible emptiness. And if Grollo was capable of breaking down crying, he would. But instead, he's just like frozen. He just like stares at the eyes of the man that he's hated this whole time. And he can't even find enough hatred. And he's like frozen.
The man below you holds out his hand to the other 3 orcs, and he says, "Stop! It's his right." And he grabs you, sort of grabs your arm, and he says, "Do it. It's everything I deserve. I left her there."
He's got my arm, and like, what do I? Do I have something in my hand? No, just.
No, I think he's. I guess I was picturing you would grab your shirt. I don't know if Grollo even has a shirt.
I had the leftover
The sort of rags. Yeah, I think that's what he's sort of grabbing onto.
You guys from Mord.
He's pulling you down. Yeah,
all right.
from Mord.
He's
I'm
pulling
a
me
huge
down.
fan.
And it's like, do it. I deserve it. Okay. And then I'm like, you deserve much worse than this, but I'm done. And then I like roll off of him and I just lay on my back like completely defeated.
He doesn't get up. He lays there for a long time. And finally he sits up and he turns to you and he says, I never really got to meet you, you know.
Well, hey.
She never told me your name.
Look, I don't really want to talk to you right now. I just...
You deserve to know the story.
I don't want to hear the story. Now I'm getting angrier. Look, we need to get away from here because pretty soon we're going to get killed. So maybe we'll talk sometime. Right now I don't want to look.
He nods and gets up and sort of brushes himself off. And the other three have like their hands on their weapons, but they're not doing anything. They're sort of taking the cue and signal. And they shrug and they go, family stuff.
Family stuff.
I get up slowly and I can't even make eye contact with Thrain or Shush, and I feel really embarrassed and I feel like I have failed.
Alyssa gets up and walks past you and says, lead the way, Tracker. And
I put my hand on Grollo's shoulder.
Crag pauses a long moment, sort of looking down at you, Grollo, now that he's standing and you're sitting. And you can see just a sadness in his face. And he turns and he takes off walking down the bank of the river.
Whoa. Heavy.
You travel for probably another full day. I guess not like a full 24 hours. You probably travel for another 6 to 8 hours. It's a lot of hard travel, especially after what you guys have been through. During that time, Crag clearly knows what he's doing to navigate through the swamp. You see him use several techniques for figuring out the way through these marshes that you've not used before. He seems to have a knowledge for identifying some of the plants and identifying some of the things that might lead in the right direction, even noticing some of the movement pattern of animals. And several times he stops you and has the entire group go in a completely different direction, parallel to where you're traveling. You even cross the river to the other side of the bank in a shallow section where you can sort of hop across stones. And as he's doing that, you can tell he's sort of weaving you in and out of sections of the swamp. But whatever he's doing seems to be working, as you never hear any sounds coming from any army pursuing you. You think you have effectively lost them. Additionally, he seems to have a lot of confidence about which direction he is leading you in. And by the end of 6 hours, you can see that you're starting to finally emerge from the swampland and get to a lot more dry land. And you've made your way up into the forests that sort of surround the edges of the swamp, sort of now officially getting up out of marshy wetlands and into more dry lands and forest. And finally, he motions after a lot of hard travel for you to stop and set up camp. And the other orcs don't really keep tents. Instead, they sort of flatten out some sections of dirt and some areas to lay down, take out their packs, and start getting it together. And Crag even creates a small fire for you to kind of dry off with. Nothing that's going to make a lot of smoke, but something that will give you at least a little bit of warmth as it turns a little cooler into night. Crag, throughout all of this, wouldn't say anything to Grollo unless Grollo asked. So my curiosity for you guys as you're traveling this long sort of 6 hours, is it spent in uncomfortable silence, or do you guys try to strike up any conversation?
Well, I tell Thrain something along the way when I think that Crag's not hearing. And I basically say, kind of under my breath, but I'm like, this is not how I pictured it. This is not how I pictured it happening at all, and now I don't know what to do with my life.
Moradin will show the way. You will know what to do when it is time.
It's just that, like, it was supposed to be an epic redemption. I was supposed to, maul him.
Perhaps Moradin has another plan for you. And what's this other guy?
Crag?
No, the other god.
Oh, Lorleth?
Perhaps Lorleth has another plan for you.
Oh, you mean not the band Mord? Oh, yes, right. Okay.
Shush, do you have any particular conversation? Silence
No.
doesn't seem like Shush's bag.
No, but
so-
also can't understand any of the conversation.
Well, that was
Oh,
in...
no, I was
No,
talking.
no. But from before, so
Yeah.
like Shush knows that something was here, and like maybe as like another sort of
Yeah.
outcast misfit, maybe like wants to connect with you, but
Right,
also
right.
like you just had a really intense experience, and
So I probably give you that's my father. And I wanted to kill him. I still want to kill him, actually.
why didn't you?
I don't know. I would have. I don't know. It wasn't in me. But I might still kill him.
What would you like me to do?
There's nothing you can do. I have failed myself. I have failed my mother. But I don't know. I will not fail forever.
I'm not an expert at Orcish communication, obviously, but it seemed like he's got more to the story than you've heard so far.
Yeah. Everyone's got more story. We'll see.
It may be worth hearing it.
Maybe. I'll still kill him.
It may be that that's the right thing to do. But you might want to know first.
As you set up to rest for the evening, Alyssa offers that the two groups should take watches together. She seems to have a recognition that there may still not be a whole lot of trust, and she's eyeing Grollo very, very intently through most of the trek together to make sure that he doesn't kill their tracker.
Did she offer us more salted boar meat?
If you ask for it, she does.
I don't know how to ask for it.
If you motion like, yeah, she'll
And then after
offer
she
you
hands
some
it to
more.
me, I will laugh uproariously, thinking that's the custom.
She also catches a few, thinking that that's the
Yeah.
joke.
It's a tradition every time you
She thinks you're real strange, but she sort of smirks. Washreth, on the other hand, thinks you're hilarious.
Awesome.
And she clasps you on the shoulder and keeps trying to talk to you, which obviously is not working because it's all in Orcish.
Shoosh.
And she goes, Washreth,
Shoosh.
Washreth.
Thumbs up the rest of the team.
I
doing
whispered
it.
to him, I'm like, I think she likes you.
Washreth also captures, does some spear fishing before you guys get fully out of the swampland, and manages to get sort of a spear full of newts, which she brings and roasts over the fire once you guys have a fire ready. And she offers you 2 newts, Shush,
boy.
instead of just one.
All right. I'll take it.
And none of the other orcs seem to say anything about it. But you are definitely getting some flirty eyes from Washreth.
All right.
What's Washreth's charisma score?
How low is my standard?
I'm gonna say pretty low.
My standard hurt.
Her charisma score. Washreth is reasonable looking, but she really has no idea how to flirt. Several times she pushes you over while you're.
She's better than Cruddy.
Sure.
I kind of whisper, I'm like, I think we've got a new Moradin fan.
I just throw up the horns.
You take the watch together, and the only things that really come from the watch, you guys finally get a chance for a full night's rest. The only things that you really get from the watch are 2 things. All of you guys notice that Crag does not go to sleep that night. He takes watch. He sort of tromps off into the forest and doesn't seem to really return until the morning. And if you ask about it, Alyssa says, no, this is usually how he keeps his own watch.
I see.
And then the other thing that you notice is that you can still see some of the smoke from the fires in the marshlands billowing out. It's clear that they really did burn a pretty large portion of the marshlands. But now that you're far enough away from the marshlands, it mostly just looks like mist and wet kind of in that direction, except for the pillar of smoke.
Would this have been like their flaw to light a big fire to signal to anyone else where the smoke is coming out of the marshes, where their camp is?
What do you mean?
Could we, like, when we get back to civilization, could we say, remember where the fire was? That's exactly where the camp is.
It's a possibility,
Let's
yeah.
go attack. Okay.
Interesting.
Mental note.
Mental note.
As you travel out of the forest, you finally make your way into what is sort of like long, sort of grassy fields. And finally, Alyssa sort of takes a deep breath and turns to all of you and she says, welcome to the Grimhammer Tribelands. And she motions down to sort of a stack of rocks that seem to be sort of a marker for the edges of the tribelands.
Do I feel anything like supernatural as I come close or come into them?
I don't think a supernatural experience, but you do feel sort of a weird sense of home.
Okay.
It's almost like a smell you remember, where you can't really place it, but you know that the smell is familiar.
Interesting.
As you guys come down into the tribelands, you camp one last night before sort of finally getting to the Grimhammer tribe, and you can see that as you camp that last night, everybody sort of doesn't keep watch, or the watch is they sort of feel safe.
Can we replenish hit points all the way?
You guys can totally replenish hit points. You guys are all at full hit points and full everything. You can get everything back, all your spell slots, everything like that. That was actually the first night was actually a long rest for you. But the second night, Crag leaves just like he did before, but this time he comes back. And Grollo, you can see Crag sitting next to you as you wake up in the middle of the night, sort of cross-legged with his sword sitting on his lap. And he looks over at you now that you've woken up, and he says,
I mean, I'd probably react in fear for a second.
Sure.
Like, what are you doing?
And he says, I think I need to tell you the whole story. And that's where we're going to end for today.
Cliffhanger.
Whoa. I thought the father was going to show up, but not so unceremoniously. That was that was a twist.
That was quite good. And the fact that I had no rage in me was very... And it's funny because I rolled poorly, too. So it all worked out.
Yeah, I figured I'd leave that one up to
because
I
had forgotten about the rage bit.
Yeah.
Until, all right.
And Umberto, on the podcast, you've talked about being abandoned by your parents when you were young. And I was wondering if that was touching on that at all.
I mean, I was definitely pulling from feelings to use in my...
But did it hurt you at all?
Not consciously, but it was definitely, I was aware of the parallels. Because we've talked about it before, about when I was describing the backstories and things like that. We've talked about
it, but not experienced it role-playing wise. This is something that you deal with as a DM when you're running the therapeutic D&D groups, is if one of the kids in your group, for example, had their parents abandon them and their backstory had this element in it. It's one thing to say, yeah, my character has a dad who raped his mom and da-da-da-da. It's another thing, because to role play it, that was a whole other thing.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what I felt the most, because I haven't actually yet had a full conversation with this Crag fella. But like when I was talking to the two of you, especially the shush conversation, that actually was like, I don't know what it was, but it was like, it was touching. You know, it was hard. It was hard because it was like, yeah, because I was saying like I'm a failure. You know, I failed at my life mission and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that definitely was emotionally heavy.
Were you role playing it like in the moment, like, oh, this is how my character would feel. This is what he would do.
Yeah, but I was really feeling like, for example, when I tend to act this way in general, but like when I realized, oh right, my rage is gone, and then I jump on him and I turn over, because I kept thinking first with my conscious brain, okay, what is Grollo gonna do? Because like this is his like life's mission. What are we gonna do here? And so at first I was trying to game it a little bit, because I was trying to say like, well, in my head I was like, well, I don't know if I just like pull out my maul and I start hitting him, because then I was like, well, no, but he's a little more irrational than that. So he's actually it's going to be like this daddy moment for him. So he's going to be confused. So he's just going to launch at him irrationally, just like, wow. Right. And then when we talked about the anger not being, or the rage not being there, then I actually really felt like this moment of like defeat internally.
Yeah,
and so
it's interesting. So it felt like you didn't really know what was going to happen,
Right.
but each moment you thought in your character's sense and did that.
Yeah.
And in terms of setting up the environment, you know, that Adam did it and the situation, it's like, well, anything could happen. He could attack
Right.
him. And the way it played out was such a unique moment in the emotional intensity and the visualization I have in my mind, you know, because my character knows what's up, and
Right.
he doesn't want you to get hurt, but he also doesn't want to interfere. And so
Right.
he's just kind of watching, and he sees you not go for your maul, and you tackle him. And in one sense, it could be looked at as an attack, but in another sense, it could just be like daddy, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you fall on the ground, and he doesn't attack back, and then you just sort of flop over, and you know,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing. I could see that happening like in a foster home or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt really, like in that moment when I was role playing, I felt really defeated. Like, man, what's my point in life? That kind of thing, you know? And so, yeah, it was intense. It was well set up.
Good. So there's an interesting piece here, especially talking to an audience of people that might go role play with their Dungeons and Dragons groups, and to think about some of these parts. This is not, especially knowing Umberto's past and history and personal connection to his character, and where his character aligns with his personal history. This is not something I would recommend
Right.
anybody necessarily do as a strategy, or as a thing that you would put in.
So it could get really
Exactly. It has a potential to be really dangerous from a very personal standpoint. Part of the reason that we can do this is two parts. One is we've established sort of a set of table rules to help us navigate this, and some of that is other things that we put into place, like pulling down the shades and stuff like that, rules that we had talked about in some previous sessions. But it's also in the trust that we've set up about what our setting is, what our rules of the table and the rules of our conduct are, and a lot of that has come through asking checking questions, and through asking about you and your character, and reflecting on those in a very verbal and outward way, where we're doing a lot of personal comparison to my journey and my character's journey. And the other part is because I know that I can stop if I can see it becoming too much of a problem and go another direction. And so in setting this up and in planning for this, a part of my planning was also in figuring out if I need to suddenly shift. Do I have something in my back pocket that I can use to say, okay, this is getting a little too close to home, this is getting a little too interpersonal, and either we can work through that, or we can shift gears if we really need to, in order to back away from something that might be a little too tender. So there was a lot of stuff that I had set up, that I had ready and prepared to change, and I did not know how Grollo was going to react to any of this.
Right.
So I had a lot of stuff sort of in mind and in my back pocket for the different ways that Grollo might react. And I've done stuff like this in personal games before. Adam's experienced some of this that I have personally put him through, and the reaction that you have as a player, I want to give you as much autonomy and as much opportunity as you can have to do the thing or express the thing that you need in that moment.
Yep. That was, well, so even rewinding in this episode, I really didn't know what the hell we were going to do in the swamp. And I had this problem because, like, if it were me, well, I had several ideas in my head of things we could try, but I wanted to stay in character, and Grollo's not going to be that creative. And so, like, I gave the one that he would have thought of, which is like, well, let's try to throw them off, right? But then I'm like, what the fuck are we going to do? And then you're like, Nicholas, you said, and I think both Shush and Adam and I were like, oh no, poor Nicholas.
I actually like that guy.
Yeah.
Like I had a personal connection with Nicholas. Like we went out of our way to include him several times. So for having to be like, just go away, it was like, wait.
So that was totally unexpected.
I will tell you, I 100% had no idea that you were going to send Nicholas on back to town. It's actually a great idea.
But I loved how you embraced it. Like,
but it was I was not expecting that in any way whatsoever.
Yeah,
I was like,
I couldn't,
oh man,
I could not. I was thinking, there's nothing we can do to shake what are probably hundreds of trackers, and so even if we got them off the scent, they would eventually find it again. And I was just thinking, I was actually thinking I would go, or I would volunteer, but it would get shot down. And so I was
and
like,
you needed to get your hammer. So what's the
so I
point?
was like, well, I guess there's still Nicholas, And I thought, does he seem like he can run fast? Because he might actually be able to get away, Yeah. And when I suggested, I thought it might actually get shot down. I thought Nicholas might protest. Like when you you role played the facial expression of Nick, and I thought he was going to be like,
I can't believe you're doing this.
But I want to be with you guys. I thought that's what you're going to say. And I was going to feel like a total dick for suggesting
You
it.
had to white fang him.
But
Get out of here.
I felt the same thing. But then you said, "This is it."
This
And I
is
was
it.
like, oh, I know where he's going with this.
Yeah.
His
Yeah,
moment.
that was amazing too. Yeah.
I really Nicholas's character arc is for him to see himself as a hero rather than a thief or a lowlife or anything like that. And so like
This was a huge.
it was like you offered to Nick on a platter.
Yeah.
Like this is your moment to be
Wow.
to like serve a greater cause bigger than yourself.
Right.
And so like it was just such good timing after he literally escaped from almost dying, from almost being tortured to death. In an encampment full of an army of orcs, and now he is headed to the city to warn them that an army of orcs is coming. So
Yeah.
I think he I saw it as like it was the perfect suggestion and opportunity for Nicholas to roll forward and be like, all right, I guess this is his. There's a term for this in storytelling where a character has like a turning, like an inspiration moment.
The point of no return.
Yeah. So I think in his character arc, this was his point of no return.
Yeah, when Luke actually, gets on the Millennium Falcon and takes off Tatooine, it's
no looking back.
You can't turn back now.
Right.
I have a question. So because I literally was not actually paying attention. So when you announced the tracker, how did you say it?
So I just had Alyssa turn and say.
Here's our tracker.
Like Craig here. These are the.
So you said it understatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because in true Grollo fashion, I was sitting there in my own little world, and then Grollo was
Umberto.
in true Berto fashion. I was sitting there in my own little world, and Grollo was in his own little world eating his little meat and like, this is pretty good, whatever. So it was so hilarious because everyone I actually Berto notices everyone like, wait, what did I miss? And then Kirk's like, that's your father.
I brought the hair on the back of my neck lifted up, and I looked over at you what are you gonna do? And you were just eating
and I was
that
like,
for me.
what? What am I gonna do? What?
Yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
to those listening out there, if you don't know what it's like to DM or to be in a game, understand the genius and creativity that Adam exhibited today, the flexibility, the storytelling. You notice in this adventure there today, this what we played, this session, there was no fighting, there was no battle, and yet some of the most memorable, interesting, meaningful, somewhat personal experiences happened, and it's all because of Adam taking note of not only what the three of us personally went through, all the various questions he's asked, but also the questions about the characters. And in between the sessions, thinking, okay, what do I do there? He has to create that whole thing. There's no manual for that. He's not following someone else's script. He has to make that all up. He has to set it all up. And he has to say, okay, well, if they do this, then I'm going to do that. Then if they do this, I'm going to do that. And also in the moment, he has to capitalize on the emotional weight of it and actually project that into the room with his own improv. He can't just say, "Oh yeah, and there's your father." He has to. It's like he embodies these people, and there's if you were in the room, you would feel it. It was a very intense moment.
Very nice. Yeah, it's funny, right? Because we could have sat there and said, "Well, let's wait for the tracker to show up," and that would have changed the whole entire.
That's true.
Or I could have kept being impulsive and thrown the rock anyways. Or it
would have been a real different game if you had killed a couple of them with a rock before you ever got down there.
I mean, there's some things that are pretty easy to play about Grollo, which one of them is that if there's a chance to do something impulsively and violent, he'll try to do it. And then, I count, role-playing wise, I count on one of these two or both to try to stop me. But today, man, there was definitely a out in the middle of the ocean without a paddle moment. A few of those where, like I said, one of them was, how the hell are we going to get out of this thing? And then personally for my character, it was like, okay, well, what do I do then? What would I do? What am I going to do? That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, getting back to Nicholas, one could say this entire thing is just Nicholas's story.
Nicholas is actually the protagonist.
Yeah.
We're
just secondary
the whole thing. You
characters.
guys are just support characters.
It's like
Spin-off series.
Did you guys ever watch Starship Troopers back in the day?
Oh, sure.
Do you remember how? Because one of the things they do well is like, they're not even the main heroes. They're not hailed as the heroes at the end. It's like, and all thanks to such and such random dude that, it's kind of like that. It's like Nicholas gets back, and I was like, oh my gosh, you saved.
Yeah, turns out Neil Patrick Harris is the main character of Starship Troopers. Who's only in like 10% of the movie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Before we finish up, I want to do a real quick spotlight that you have for somebody else. Even better if you can get really specific about a particular moment, a particular role play. We oftentimes when we do spotlights for the kids in our group, it's really difficult to do spotlights for role play as opposed to combat or solving a puzzle or something along those lines. And I think the real secret to that is in being able to remember a joke or remember a moment that spoke to you or that was significant to you. So who would like to start us off with a spotlight for somebody else today?
Well, I'll start. So first off, like, it doesn't go without saying that I think you set up such incredible moments today, like role-playing wise, right? That it really was great. So even though there were no battles, there was some incredibly intense and stressful moments. So I have to give you a shout out. But I also really liked the interaction my character had with Shush, because I actually was thinking that I was done with the conversations because Grollo doesn't talk much, and he already talked to his best buddy Thrain about it, and then it just happened to be that you like hadn't understood everything, so we're like, okay, well, let's talk about it. But then that created like this really extra moment, and then your character was like a therapist moment there. It was really, really good, really intense. So shout out to your playing of that Shush moment. That was really good.
I'll shout out, if I just focus on one moment, it was when Adam, the DM, said from the Nicholas voice, "This is it."
Yeah.
There, you were actually starting to cry. I could tell.
I was getting a little teared up for Nicholas in that.
Yeah,
in that
which got me a little teary as well. I mean, that is role playing.
Yeah,
right there.
that was good.
So good. I mean, because like I said earlier, I threw it out there and then kind of instantly regretted it because the two of you were like, wait a second.
Dick.
And then I was like,
What a
oh.
dick, this
And
thing.
then I saw your feet because I could see the gears turning in your head. And then you like had this face and I was like, oh no, like I hurt his feelings and I'm going to have to apologize. Like and then you're like, this is it. And it took like half a second for me to catch up to you, and then I could see you kind of tearing up a little bit, and I could tell like you actually like that character. You like the Nicholas character.
Yeah, Nicholas is he's really fun to play, and I'm actually gonna have to do a lot of figuring out what happens after this.
I mean, if I can, what I'd like to imagine is that Thrain actually did the calculation in his mind and thought, there's no way this is going to fool them for very long, and they're going to trace back and actually come after the much bigger trail the three of us are going to leave. But this is going to buy us some time and save Nicholas. That's what I like to believe was really going on in your head.
Thrain's idea there.
I used up one of my last spell slots for Nicholas, who's where we won't see again, and like I could have totally used some spells when we were actually with those orcs, but I like really care about Nicholas and I want him to survive this journey, so used up a spell slot for this NPC. Right, this is clear that we're not even going to see. That's how much I like Nicholas. I want to use the mechanic, like personal disadvantage. We'll use the mechanics of the game to support Nicholas's journey back to Bahiha.
So that's my spotlight. Adam, what about you?
There were some good ones today. I think this was a very Grollo-centric episode, and I think my spotlight goes to you Umberto, for going there, because I think there's an opportunity to have this moment where there's a potential for role play and like make it really simple,
Right?
And be like, I'm gonna kill him, and really like overly narrate it instead of like being there. And you were like, we're an audio media right now, but I get to watch you. Like also like you were saying, for Adam embodying the character, like I can watch you have this moment where your rage is gone,
Right.
And like that was I was over here having my own emotional experience watching you have this emotional experience, and I think that's the power of your willingness. I think that's the thing that I'll give a spotlight to is that moment played out. It wasn't like I'm gonna go kill him. Okay, here's what happens in the story. Is I need to kill him or he needs to kill him. Right. It was like I have this feeling. I'm here. I roll over. I look at this guy, and I can watch you like literally move your eyes as if you're rolling over and looking up in this moment where you have felt like you failed or whatever. I thought that was really powerful.
All right. I felt it too.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to give my spotlight to you too, also Umberto, for just spectacular role playing for Grollo, and more than anything, sort of Adam and I just taught an improv group, improv for role playing games and for role playing, and the good dynamics that we have in this group are also because you guys are all spectacular role players and spectacularly willing to take what I've given you and roll with it and yes and it, but also really consider what that means for your character and what that means from those other perspectives and dive in and be a part of it. So I think you did that really spectacularly well today, is to really jump in and react, but react from both emotional and thought process and kind of pulling everything in to figure out what would Grollo do here, what is the scene that's going to play out, and how can I be in it in the moment.
There's something interesting that happened both this game and last game for me as a player, because the check-in question was like something that was not necessarily connected to the game, but it totally was for me as a player. Like last session, I think the check-in question was something like, what are you afraid of or something? And it was like, being ineffective. And in that game, I was tied up and couldn't do anything. And in this game, I was like, but fundamental truth is how hard it is to communicate with people and connect with them. And this game, I literally couldn't understand anybody. And I think, like, I'm curious about whether or not I would have that same sort of emotional connection with not being able to hear anybody if I didn't just have the opportunity to tell everybody all of the listeners and all you guys at the table, like, here's a thing that I is like a fundamental truth that I feel struggled with or
so
something.
funny.
I think it's really interesting. And so my sort of second spotlight, Adam, is to you for having what's her name? Give me some newts. I was like,
Washreth.
Washreth. I was like,
right.
I was like, I
Washreth.
don't understand anything. Nobody understands me. We're just hanging out. I'm like watching everybody talk. And then she's like, here's some newts. And I was like, I do belong. Hooray. So thanks for that spotlight, Adam. Washreth, give me those newts.
Well-
I needed that today. Thank you.
She's got a real
I don't need to
crush
fall
on.
in love with her. I just like the newts,
Yeah.
It's like,
One last-
you see me.
One last thing I wanted to add was I really enjoyed when you added the backstory elements to the Grollo story, because like we never got specific about it, but all of a sudden I understood better myself why I would hate my father so much, other than kind of the obvious. Like this made it really visceral for me. I'm like, and it also added these elements of, like if you were actually writing the story, it's like, oh right, he actually hates himself. Like he hates what he represented to these people. He should have hated the town that like rejected him and maybe killed his mom, but instead he hated himself. Like that was totally unplanned and really interesting. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really like how all that came together. Plus, I needed to actually put Grollo's backstory into like a concise area that I can go back in the podcast and
Makes
listen
sense.
to.
Yeah.
Because I kept trying to hop around to find all the pieces of Grollo's backstory, and I was like, we just need to establish this somewhere.
All right. Well, that wraps up the 10th D&D therapy session. And in another month or so, we will have our 11th. And
11th on the 11th.
Please take care of yourself out there because
You deserve it.